Behold!
Do you remember, girl? On the phone, you and me. Till dawn, till 3. What about us?
Do you remember?
Do you remember when we fell in love? Young and innocent. Do you remember all again? Seems like heaven, so why did it? Do you remember?
One of the most popular exhibits at the Chicago Field Museum is an Egyptian carving of a bust that many have identified as similar to MJ's face. The bust is actually of a woman, a period that also aligns with the brief reign of the 18th dynasty pharaoh, King Tutankhamun. The interest in the Field Museum statue sparked by a pic posted on Flickr in 2007. Following Michael's passing in June 2009, it became a focal point for grieving fans. The statue's in a glass case to protect it from the many visitors wanting to kiss it. Photographer Christophe Boumet created an image of MJ in profile, resembling an obsidian statue of King Khafre, 4th dynasty pharaoh, which was featured in the history album booklet, and another based on the gold funeral mask of King Tut. MJ quite accurately perceived of it as part of the continent of Africa and viewed its rich past as part of a Pan-African history. King Tut, all those great civilizations, that's right there in Africa, he said in his interview with Reverend Jesse Jackson in 2005. Egypt is in Africa, and they always tried to separate the two, but Egypt is Africa. Modern man has long been enamored of the vision of a glorious past when god kings were buried in pyramids, old kingdom, and were sent into the afterlife surrounded by mountains of treasure, such as was discovered in the tomb of Tutankhamun, New Kingdom, by which time the so-called boy king had been all but lost to history. Tut was only 9 when he ascended to the throne and was 19 when he died. MJ obviously was inspired by the Egypt of antiquity. Ancient Egypt theme was inspiration for Remember the Time in 1992. The imagery of the short film includes pyramids of Giza, Sphinx, and busts of Ramses II, known as Ramses the Great, and Queen Nefertiti, represented by Iman, strikingly similar. Eddie represented Ramses, even though Ramses and Nefertiti weren't contemporaries, much less husband and wife. Some sources refer to Michael's character as the Wizard in Black. Wizard comes from the word wiz, meaning sage, and art. It wasn't until the mid-16th century that this word acquired its present meaning, one with magical powers, which is two. Michael said, and I quote, "We have to include magic in this short film, and I will always remember that," Singleton recalled in 2009. Therefore, it would be more accurate to call the mysterious character from Remember the Time the Wizard. In fact, before the first millennium before Christ, the magicians of ancient Egypt were both priests who performed rituals and cast spells. Ancient Egyptian magicians are found in the Old Testament of the Bible in the book of Exodus. When pharaohs tried to repeat the fate of Aaron, who turned his staff into a serpent, summoned wise men and sorcerers, and with his spells, magicians of Egypt did the same. In the book King of Style Dressing MJ, Bush recalls Michael showing him a museum-quality art book on Egyptian culture and remarking on the beauty of the jewelry, in particular the use of gold. This was 1 month prior. Michael revealed he was working on a new short film with an Egyptian theme. Michael's costume owes its most strikingly feature, the 18-karat gold-plated Georgerine, to one worn by Joel Brenner in the role of Ramses II in the movie The 10 Commandments. Michael reportedly sent a tape of the 1956 classic to Michael Bush and Dennis Tompkins so they could see what MJ had in mind. A Georgerine is an assembly of metal discs worn on the chest. According to French writer Gonzague Saint-Brie, author of Au Paradis avec Michael Jackson, which means In Paradise with Michael Jackson, details his travels with MJ in Africa in '92. Remember the Time gives just a superficial indication of Michael's deep curiosity for ancient Egypt, particularly for the period of the Black Pharaohs that preceded Assyrian domination of Egypt. Egypt and southern neighbor Nubia forged links of commerce through exploitation of gold mines and exchange of products. When Egyptian rule became fractured, the Nubian kingdom of Kush assumed control. Egyptian policy was profoundly affected for more than a century, allowing the rise in Sudan of a powerful kingdom. It was this kingdom MJ was fascinated with. MJ explained, the lost Kushite state of Kerma was an autonomous and powerful state on the borders of Egypt. It was a civilization in its own right, influenced by its closeness to Egypt, but with its own identity. Archaeologists consider it to be the first great kingdom of Africa, which was dominated by the 5 black pharaohs, who would seize the land of the kings of Egypt.
The founder of this new kingdom was a tribal leader named Alara, who became king of all the Nubians.
Brie continued, I quote, "In January of 2003, MJ's intuition of a vanished realm found its materialization. A Swiss archaeologist, Charles Bonnet, exhumed 7 statues of pharaohs at the Kerma site in Sudan. These monumental works were sleeping 3 meters underground for 2.5 millennia. In addition to being well read on Egyptian history, MJ's interest in the subject was reflected in his art collection. One of his dearest friends was Liz Taylor, who famously played the last of the Macedonian Greek rulers of Egypt, Cleopatra. Jackson's mastery of the history of ancient Egypt impressed Saint-Brie, who explains how the Nubian pharaonic dynasty finally succumbed to the Assyrians and kings of the Delta, who endeavored to erase all traces of the Black Pharaohs, in particular by mutilation of their statues. But smashing statues isn't enough to erase life. He concluded saying, and I quote, "The enigmatic Michael still has the last word. All birth is the rebirth of an ancestor." MJ was also reported keen to play Tutankhamun in a musical movie adaptation about the young pharaoh, according to an anonymous blogger who claimed to work at Columbia in 1999. Columbia is part of the Sony Group, as you know, and MJ is signed to Sony Music. MJ agreed to do another album for Sony Music on the condition an agreement was made to allow him a pathway into the movie industry. Some kind of agreement was signed by Sony, Epic, and Columbia for this to happen, allegedly having MJ play the lead role. While this was another project that never happened, it seems to have remained close to Michael's heart. Following his passing in June 2009, a note was found in his rented Holmby Hills mansion that stated there should be no AEG deal unless films are involved. According to author and academic Joseph Vogel, Michael wrote a plan to develop a movie a year for the next 5 years. He specifically emphasized a musical based on the life of King Tut. His ambitions for this project may have involved being behind the camera, writing, producing, or possibly directing.